All right, diving right in. Today we're tackling cybersecurity and data protection. All the stuff that keeps our digital lives, well, alive and kicking. We've got this research paper fresh off the press, and it's basically our playbook for what's hot and what's not in staying safe online in 2024 and beyond. So, whether you're a tech whiz or just trying to not get scammed, stick with us.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast this landscape changes. It's like this constant back and forth, attackers finding new ways to break in, and we're building the defenses. That's what makes this so interesting, this constant evolution.
So, like a never ending game of cat and mouse.
Exactly. And 2024, well, let's just say things are heating up. This research, it really highlights just how clever, how sophisticated these attacks are becoming.
We're not talking about just those old school viruses anymore, huh?
No, no, way beyond that.
So paint us a picture. What kind of threats are we up against these days?
Well, ransomware, that's a big one still. They lock up your data, hold it hostage, and demand payment to get it back. Imagine all your files, photos, everything just gone poof.
Ugh, that's terrifying. A digital nightmare.
It is. And then there's phishing. Those tricky emails. They're getting so good at impersonating real organizations. They even target you based on your interests, what you do online. Super sneaky.
So it's getting harder and harder to spot the fakes.
Yeah. And then we've got supply chain attacks, where they hit entire networks.
Not just one company, but everyone connected.
Right. So it's not just about protecting yourself, it's about the whole system.
That's a whole other level of scary.
It is. And here's the kicker. AI-powered hacking tools.
AI, huh? So the attackers are getting a supercharge.
They are. Automating attacks, making them faster, more efficient, tougher to defend against.
Okay, this is where it feels like we're in a sci-fi movie. But surely if they're using AI, the good guys are too, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the biggest trends right now, AI and machine learning. But on our side, it's like having this digital detective constantly on the case, sifting through data, trying to spot threats before they even happen.
So it's all about being proactive, not just reacting after the fact?
Exactly. AI can analyze network traffic, user behavior, all of it, looking for those subtle signs, the red flags. And the more it learns, the smarter it gets.
Okay, that does make me feel a little better. But I gotta ask, this whole zero trust architecture thing sounds kind of intense.
It might sound strict, but honestly, it's essential these days, especially with those supply chain attacks we talked about. Zero trust is all about damage control, minimizing the impact.
So how does it actually work in practice?
Think of it like never trust, always verify. Instead of assuming anyone inside a network is safe, every user, every device, every request gets checked constantly.
No more free passes just because you're on the company network.
Exactly. And with so many people working remotely, cloud computing everywhere, those old network boundaries are fading away. We need something stronger. Zero trust, it ensures that even if one part gets hit, the damage is contained.
Multiple layers of security, so even if one fails, the others hold up.
Right on. And speaking of the cloud, that's another hot spot. So much data is moving there, we need better ways to protect it. Encryption, multi-cloud strategies, it's like building a fortress in the sky.
Makes sense, but what happens if, despite all that, an attack still gets through?
That's where cyber resilience comes in. It's not just about blocking attacks, it's about bouncing back.
Okay, so like a digital escape route?
In a way, yeah, it's about data backups, recovery plans, incident response protocols, security audits, the whole package.
So being prepared for the worst, even if we hope it never happens.
Exactly. And a big part of that is training, educating people.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be aware of the threats, how to spot them, how to react.
So it's not just about technology, it's about the human element too.
Absolutely, we're all part of this. And speaking of people, well, devices really, think about how many things are connected to the internet now.
Oh yeah, the Internet of Things, right. Everything's online.
Exactly. And each device is a potential entry point for hackers.
It's mind-boggling, the scale of it all. But ultimately, all this boils down to protecting the data itself, right?
You got it. The data is the crown jewel, the ultimate target.
And that brings us to data protection, a whole other world to explore.
It is. And luckily, this paper dives into that too, especially with all the regulations popping up like GDPR and CCPA.
All right, let's jump down that rabbit hole. What are we seeing in the data protection world? How's that evolving?
Well, one of the most exciting areas is data encryption. Think of it like a digital vault, keeping your data safe and sound.
Okay, so more than just a strong password.
Oh yeah, way more. We're talking cutting edge stuff. Quantum safe encryption, for example.
Quantum safe, that sounds like something out of Star Trek.
It kind of is. It's designed to withstand future quantum computers.
Whoa, hold on. Computers that don't even fully exist yet.
Right, but they could one day crack our current encryption, so we got to be ready.
Future-proofing our data, that's thinking ahead.
It is, but sometimes the simplest solutions are surprisingly effective, like data minimization.
Data what now? I haven't heard that one.
It's simple. You only collect and store the data you absolutely need, like decluttering, but for your digital life.
So the less you have, the less there is to steal.
Exactly. Less risk, better security, and better for privacy, too.
And what about these privacy-enhancing technologies, or PTs? They sound interesting.
They are. It's all about using data for insights without exposing the actual data itself.
So seeing the forest without looking at the individual trees.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Techniques like homomorphic encryption and differential privacy, that's the future.
It's like having your cake and eating it too, using data but keeping it private.
That's the goal. PETs are still developing, but they have huge potential.
Okay, so we've got encryption, data minimization, these PETs. Sounds like data protection is getting pretty high-tech. But with all this, are humans even still needed, or is it all about the algorithms?
Humans are absolutely essential. You can have the best tech in the world, but without people to manage it, interpret it, it's useless.
Like having a fancy car but not knowing how to drive?
Exactly. We need people who understand these systems, can analyze the data, and make decisions, especially with AI in the mix.
Speaking of AI, we've talked about it being used by both sides.
Right. It's a double-edged sword, powerful tool for both good and bad.
So what does that mean for the future? Are we heading towards machines versus machines?
It's a question a lot of people are asking. AI is changing the game, but I don't think it's replacing humans entirely, more like a collaboration.
Humans and machines working together.
Exactly. AI can do things we can't, analyze huge amounts of data, spot patterns, but it's still up to us to understand the context, make the final call.
So AI is a tool, and we're the ones wielding it.
Precisely. And as AI gets smarter, we need even more skilled cybersecurity professionals.
Not just coders, but people who can think critically, solve problems.
Absolutely. The human element is crucial in this field.
It sounds like an exciting time to be in cybersecurity.
It is. So many challenges, so many new frontiers, always evolving.
I'm curious, what gets you most excited about the future of all this?
The innovation, definitely. Seeing all these new ideas and approaches, it feels like we're just getting started. And quantum computing, that's a game changer.
You mentioned it earlier. What kind of impact will that have on cybersecurity?
Huge, both positive and negative. It could break our current encryption. Imagine if suddenly all our sensitive data was vulnerable. That's the risk.
A potential crisis waiting to happen.
It could be, but it's also an opportunity to create even stronger security. It's a race. We need to stay ahead of the curve.
I get why you find this so fascinating. It's constantly pushing the limits. But before we wrap up this part, let's talk about personal responsibility. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all this, like it's only for the experts, but you're saying we all have a role to play.
Absolutely. Even if you're not a tech whiz, there are simple things you can do. Be aware of the threats, use strong passwords, be careful what you click, back up your data. Those are the basics.
So vigilance and common sense go a long way.
They do. Make it harder for hackers to target you. Don't make it easy. Use two-factor authentication. Be mindful of what you share online.
Good reminders. Anything else we should keep in mind?
Use a good antivirus. Keep your software updated. Those extra layers of protection help.
It's a combination of personal responsibility and using the right tools.
That's right. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. We all need to do our part to keep ourselves and our data safe.
And if we do, maybe we can actually enjoy technology without constant fear.
I believe we can. It's a challenge, but it's worth it. The future of our digital lives depends on it. Yeah, it's a whole world. And this paper, it breaks down some of the key trends, like what are the cutting-edge ways we're safeguarding our data in this crazy digital age?
Okay, so walk us through it. What's catching your eye?
Well, for starters, data encryption, that's always evolving. Think of it like those high-tech vaults you see in spy movies.
Keeping those digital secrets under lock and key.
Exactly, but we're talking way beyond your basic password here. There's this thing called quantum safe encryption.
Quantum safe. Okay, now you're just messing with me.
No, seriously, it's designed to be uncrackable, even by those super powerful quantum computers that are, well, coming soon.
So we're talking future-proofing our data against technology that doesn't even exist yet.
Exactly. Got to stay ahead of the game, right?
Right. But sometimes I feel like the simplest solutions are the best.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Take data minimization, for example.
Data minimization. Okay, now you're just making up words.
No, it's a real thing, and it's pretty genius. The idea is you only collect and store the data you actually need.
So like a digital spring cleaning, getting rid of all the clutter.
Exactly. Less data means less risk, less to worry about protecting.
Makes sense. A minimalist approach to data security.
It is, and it's not just good for security, it's good for privacy too.
Speaking of privacy, what about those privacy-enhancing technologies, or PETs, as you call them?
Ah, yes, PTs. They're all about finding clever ways to use data without actually exposing it.
So like seeing the trends without knowing the individual data points.
Exactly. It's like being able to analyze the forest without looking at each tree.
Okay, I'm starting to get it, so we can still get insights without compromising privacy.
That's the goal. And techniques like homomorphic encryption and differential privacy, they're leading the way, allowing us to have our cake and eat it too, so to speak.
It all sounds very high-tech, but with all this advanced technology, are humans even still relevant?
Oh, absolutely. More than ever, in fact. See, you can have the most sophisticated systems, the best AI, but without skilled people to manage it all, to interpret the data, it's meaningless.
So it's like having a self-driving car, but still needing a driver to make sure it doesn't go off-road.
Precisely. We need human expertise to understand the context, to make the
Right.
tough calls, especially with AI becoming so prevalent. It's a partnership, really.
Humans and machines working together to keep us safe.
Exactly. AI can handle those massive data sets, spot patterns we might miss. But we need human intuition, critical thinking, to make sense of it all.
So AI is a powerful tool, but it's still us humans calling the shots.
That's right. And as AI evolves, the demand for cybersecurity professionals, it's only going up.
It's not just about coding anymore, it's about problem solving, thinking outside the box.
Exactly. The human element, it's more important than ever.
This is fascinating stuff. I can see why you're so passionate about this field.
Oh, it's definitely an exciting time to be in cybersecurity. So much happening, so much to learn.
Well, before we get too carried away, let's bring it back down to earth. For the average person, what does all this mean? What can we do to protect ourselves?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And the good news is there's a lot we can do. Even if you're not a tech expert, you can still take steps to improve your security.
So give us the basics, the essential tips for staying safe online.
All right, first and foremost, be aware of the threats, understand how they work. Phishing scams, malware, those are the bad guys. Be careful what you click on. Don't open attachments from people you don't know.
So common sense and a healthy dose of paranoia.
Pretty much. And use strong passwords, please. I can't stress that enough. And whenever you can, enable two-factor authentication. That extra layer of security makes a huge difference.
Okay, strong passwords, two-factor. Got it.
Good. And be mindful of what you share online. Not everything needs to be public.
Right. Sometimes less is more, especially when it comes to personal information.
Exactly. And here's a big one. Back up your data regularly. Just in case something goes wrong, you don't want to lose everything.
A digital safety net makes sense.
And consider using a reputable antivirus program. It can catch those nasty bugs before they do damage.
So a combination of good habits and the right tools.
That's it. Cybersecurity, it's a shared responsibility. We all need to do our part.
And if we do, maybe we can finally start enjoying technology without constantly looking over our shoulder.
Absolutely. It's a challenge, but it's a challenge worth taking on. The future of our digital lives, it depends on it.
Okay, back for round 3, the final stretch of our cybersecurity deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, from AI hackers to quantum-safe vaults.
It's wild how much is happening in this field. It feels like we're on the edge of something big.
Absolutely. The future of cybersecurity is full of possibilities, but also some serious challenges.
Like navigating a maze that's constantly changing.
Exactly. You never know what's around the next corner.
So, any clues, any hints of where this maze might lead us?
Well, if we look at the trends we've talked about, some scenarios start to emerge. AI, for example. It's only going to become more powerful, more integrated into everything.
So that digital arms race, AI versus AI, it's going to escalate.
Most likely, and as AI systems evolve, they'll be able to analyze data, identify threats, make decisions at speeds we can only dream of.
It's both exciting and a little terrifying, you know?
I understand it's crucial that we maintain human oversight as AI advances. We need safeguards, ethical guidelines to ensure it's used responsibly.
Definitely don't want to end up in a Terminator scenario.
No, we don't, but AI is just one piece of the puzzle. Quantum computing, that's another game changer we need to watch closely.
You mentioned it could break our current encryption. That's a scary thought.
It is. Imagine a world where all our sensitive data is suddenly vulnerable.
That's a major crisis waiting to happen.
It could be, but it's also an opportunity to develop even stronger encryption. Quantum-resistant algorithms, that's the next frontier.
So it's a double-edged sword, risk and opportunity.
Exactly, and it's a race against time to stay ahead of the curve.
I'm starting to see why you're so fascinated by all this. It's constantly evolving.
It is, and that's what makes it so challenging and so rewarding.
But before we wrap up, I want to bring it back to something we touched on earlier. Personal responsibility, the idea that we all have a role to play in cybersecurity.
Absolutely. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the technical stuff, but even small steps can make a big difference.
So what can the average person do to protect themselves, besides hiding under a rock?
Well, first, stay informed. Be aware of the threats out there, how they work, use strong, unique passwords for every account, and enable two-factor authentication whenever possible.
Okay, those are good starting points, but it's more than just passwords, right?
Right. Be cautious about what you click on. Don't open attachments from unknown senders. Keep your software updated. Those patches often contain important security fixes.
So a combination of vigilance and good digital hygiene.
Exactly. And back up your data regularly. You never know when disaster might strike.
It's like having an insurance policy for your digital life.
That's a good way to put it. And if you're really serious about security, consider using a reputable antivirus program. It can add an extra layer of protection.
It sounds like cybersecurity is a team effort. We all need to do our part.
Absolutely. The more we all take responsibility for our own security, the safer we'll all be.
Well said. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of cybersecurity and data protection. We've explored the emerging trends, the challenges, the opportunities, and most importantly, what we can all do to stay safe in this increasingly digital world.
It's been a great discussion. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, remember, stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay curious. The future of cybersecurity is in our hands.
Until next time, stay safe out there.
And keep exploring.